Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Hundreds of residents of Ilaje, Otumara and Babaijo communities on Lagos mainland are being displaced by ongoing demolitions being carried out by an agency of the Lagos state government. Now, what are the circumstances that led to these demolitions, and what evictions, and what extent is the state government, to what extent rather is the state government aware of it? If the government is aware, was there any form of deadline before the agency moved in? Joining us now to address this matter is the pair of Chapman, who is the Co-Executive Director, Justice and Empowerment Initiatives, and Honorable Jude Ojo, a community representative and market leader. It's so good to have you both on the morning show. So
thank you.
Let's understand this from how it all started. The starting point, which ideally should be the community receiving some form of notice that this is about to happen, and obviously proper remuneration and displacement options, places that they could be moved to after they have been displaced. Were these things put in place? How did it all start, and how did it escalate to this point?
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us here to discuss this important issue, which has become a huge humanitarian disaster in Lagos mainland. The history is a long one, but I'll try to give just the basics. This is a community that has existed for since 1920. They were first settlers on the particular piece of land, and it has grown up to be a settlement, the entire area that's now been evicted. We're talking about an estimated 12,500 people that have been evicted. The background is that this community is very, very well organized. Way back in 2016, they were part of a group of waterfront communities, riverine communities, that were under threat of eviction by the Ambode administration, as at that time. They went to court and they won a judgment that granted a perpetual injunction against this kind of displacement unless the state government sits with the residents, consults with them, and plans for their resettlement. That judgment is still subsisting up till today. And following that, we started to have some positive engagement with the Lagos state government through the urban renewal agency, LASURA, where since 2021, there has been an ongoing dialogue between the community and the government about upgrading the community for the benefit of the residents. They put in place a regeneration committee within the community to plan to do their own enumeration. That's why we can tell you the actual population, because they have gone through a house numbering exercise, tallied the residents, because they were planning for regeneration in partnership with the government. We started to hear around March last year that there were some moves happening, and that some of the neighboring communities were evicted in Otto area of Lagos mainland last year, March. At that point, we took the opportunity to write on behalf of Otumara residents to the Lagos state government, expressing our concern and hoping that this was not going to continue into Otumara and the surrounding areas. Again, in February of this year, we were hearing that we weren't quite sure what was happening. And so we wrote again to the government saying, we're hearing that some land grabbers want to take over the land. What is going to happen? And instead of getting a positive response, we saw that LASCA, the Lagos State Building Control Agency, came in and started marking properties. The residents are so organized, they immediately went to the Lagos mainland on peaceful demonstration. They went to the Lagos State Governor's office on peaceful demonstration. They met with various agencies, various general managers, permanent secretaries, a special advisor to the governor, and they finally got assurances that the demolition would not go ahead, that the regeneration of the community and the promises that had been made prior to this time would be carried forward to such an extent that the evening before the eviction started, our organization convened a big meeting in the community based on the assurances that had been given to us by the state government to talk about how we were going to update the house numbering of the community and go ahead with the regeneration plan. Less than 5 hours later, we heard that excavators were coming into the community. And they came in with police, they came in with touts, they came in with LASPA officials, the Lagos State Building Control Agency, to carry out the demolition. They came in with 5 different excavators from all different parts of the community, and they took down all of Otumara, Ilaje Otumara community, and Babaijo, which is a neighboring community. And at this point, 12,500 people and counting have been displaced. They've moved now into a neighboring area called Iagan. So that's the summary of the issue, but the humanitarian crisis and the struggle of the community to avoid this kind of thing happening my colleague can speak a lot more to that situation.
All right. Let me come in with two questions.
Yeah,
I'll
sure.
start with you, and then I'll go to Honorable Ojo. You made reference to the judgment that was gotten in 2017.
17, yes.
Is there a relationship with what is happening at Otumara Legal with Otodogbame? That was the main issue as at that time. And then what role is your organization playing in all these communities beyond leading them on protests to government house and stuff like that? That's for you. And then to Honorable Ojo, can you provide a bit of context to the actual issues? I know that what LAPSCA essentially will be to say that if the properties are not habitable and things like that, if they do not meet the criteria or that set by the government, they will first warn you and then send papers before they can come in. In your own case, why is it LAPSCA, or is it just the Ministry of Physical Planning that is involved? And what was the offense? Explain to us if this is about regeneration from the Lagos State government. Are there plans as to resettlement and compensation, or it is just that you didn't meet certain standards that LAPSCA would normally check? And it won't be limited to your community alone. They will do that to many of the other places if they do not meet certain requirements. What actually happened in your own case?
Thank you very much.
So he can start so that we come back to you.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much. I must say this. What LAPSCA did was an aberration and a total different from what their regulation says. They came on the 11th of February in a commando-like manner, guns, touting, batting, cutlasses, and marks. I don't expect this from any responsible government agency. That is number one. Number two, even if you are coming, they said they are going to mark between 15, 20 meters away from the canal and the creeks or the lagoon. At the time, they said they were marking 120 meters. There is nothing like 120 meters away from the canal or the creeks in urban planning regulations. And at the end of the day, even where they mention 120 meters, they mention something about 200, 300 meters all around the community. And at the end of the day, you can see what has happened there. They pulled down the whole community. No one was spared. That is number one. Number two, if you are coming to do such an exercise, there should be a prior notice. We are Nigerians. We are not foreigners. I don't expect a responsible government to create an IDP camp within a decent state. I don't expect that.
Was there a notice at all?
The notice was on the 11th, and it was for 24 hours. And that day, that same day, they came around 1:30, and we immediately moved on protest to the local government chairman, who claimed no, she knew nothing about it. On 12th February, we proceeded with about 30 small buses going in large numbers to governor's office with our letters and protests. Some members of State Assembly came out to receive us. We submitted a letter with State Assembly. We went to governor's office, we submitted a letter, and some other government agencies, like even the letter from the Ministry of Justice, we just received acknowledgement that they've got our letter on that same day. So, no, I don't understand. No government can tell me they are not aware. And they did not follow the due process. Women, the old ones, pregnant women, suckling babies, were thrown out of their houses on the 7th of March. You need to, it was an eyesore. You need to see what happened that day.
Honorable Ojo, let me understand quite well the date so that we put things in proper perspective.
Yes.
You got a notice on the 11th of February.
Yes.
And then they came on the 12th of February.
They came.
But demolition didn't happen until March. When?
They came on the 7th of March.
But you got the notice served.
We got the notice served on the 11th of February.
What did the notice say?
Said removed totally. Removed totally. 24 hours notice. Removed totally.
All right.
I think I have a photocopy of the notice here.
Okay.
But maybe I can come in,
Yes, please.
if that's all right?
Yes, please.
Because I think there's a fact that he jumped over as he was explaining, which is that after the notice was given on the 11th, on the 12th they came on peaceful protest. That same day the community went on peaceful demonstration, and they delivered letters to different agencies. They met with, along the line, in the course of that week, they met with the general manager of LASCA. They met with the general manager of Lasura, who's been planning regeneration with the community. They met with the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Physical Planning and Urban Development, and they eventually met with the special advisor to the governor on EGIS and urban development, who are the responsible authorities supervising the agencies, both Lasura and LASCA. They met with all those people. The final person they met with 1 week before the actual demolition took place, on the 28th of February, they met with the special advisor, and he gave them assurance that the demolition was not going to go ahead, that instead, but this is a higher authority.
Because the notice had been served.
This is a higher authority. Are you telling me you believe that a government authority should be able to make promises?
I was not there.
No, this is what I'm saying.
No, but sorry, it's just
Because
he's trying to clarify something. Can I go for
Yes, sure.
Because a legal notice has been served, right? A notice saying that this is what's going to happen in this time period, and that notice has been served. If or not, whether or not a verbal retraction of that notice can be proper, what would have to happen after that is that a written retraction is what would be expected.
Well, what you're telling us is actually what we're concluding, which is how do we trust the government? How do we work in a trust-based relationship with the government? That's the question that's actually coming up. Because if a higher authority within the government can give an assurance and then that assurance doesn't stand, we put so much faith in that assurance that the evening before the eviction came up, we convened a meeting with the community residents, about hundreds of people, to talk about updating the house numbering, because they had said that we should go ahead and update the house numbering, come to them so we continue with the planning for the regeneration. And if we can't believe those kinds of things, even the question,
the role that your organization
yes,
plays.
you asked some very good questions, and I want to cast our minds back, because the truth is that this eviction was in violation of a court order. The court order is the 2017 order that we referenced before. At that time, when the Ambode administration was threatening Otodobame, it was threatening actually all the waterfront communities in Lagos. They said that all quote-unquote shanties on waterfront could be evicted within 7 days. So there was a group of about 20 communities that went together to the Lagos State High Court, including Otumura community.
Yeah.
The case resulted in a judgment that covers the entirety of those communities, including Otumura. His name is in the court process. And the judgment was a perpetual injunction against going ahead with demolition, except the government sits with the community residents' plans for the resettlement.
Yeah, but you are aware that there were also a family land tussle. The Elegushi family and a few other royal families that were involved, who also went to court and, to take ownership of what they claim to be their land. Are you aware?
You're talking about Otodobame?
Otodobame, yes.
But the Otodobame eviction was carried out by the state government.
Well,
whether there's
not quite. I was part of that government, so I know. There were familial interests and there were judgments also. But don't let us digress to Otodobame so that we deal
with Otumura.
Exactly.
Thank you very much.
And the role of
your organization.
And your organization.
Sure. So I've been actually saying these things. I'd like to clarify. Since we received that judgment in 2017, the entire tenor of our engagement with the state government has changed to one that has been much more looking at how we can put in place some positive examples for win-win partnership between communities and government towards in situ upgrading. In situ upgrading is the people stay in the place. You don't demolish everything. You look at what is good and you see how to improve. Because the amount, if you think of the billions of naira that are wasted when a demolition goes forward. There was some footage that I don't know if you were able to see it. There was a church that was newly built with brand new blocks within the community up to 2 stories high. and you watch an excavator taking this down, it's so heartbreaking. You think of how much money went into the cement, into the block, and just to take all of that down and start back to nothing.
Yeah, but
The partnership that we've tried to put in place with the state government is to look at how do we work together, assess the communities, upgrade what needs to be upgraded, build on the existing investments, and make sure that it benefits the people. That's the
but if there was going to be regeneration, which
Exactly.
you used, quite often, and I'd like Honorable Joe to quickly answer to that. Did you agree on any particular things, given the fact that it looks to me from what you're saying, that the government said that given that it's a waterfront choice area, we're interested in regenerating this place. Did you sit down with them to say, ultimately, what will you do in terms of relocation, in terms of compensation, etc.? Because ultimately, it will come, won't it? Were there any specific agreements before LAFSCA came calling?
As a matter of fact, we are on the verge of even getting contractors by the community. We were at a meeting with the Lasura then, and they agreed they've gotten some contractors. And we also find out, can we also look for a contractor that would suit us? And they say, if you can come with a contractor, we will compare and contract. Let the best contractor handle the work, the project. So we are in support of regeneration, but we are not in support of demolition. And we are not talking about somebody relocating us to somewhere else. A community, personally, I've stayed there for over 50 years. And if you are going to eject me from such a community, there should be a plan in place. I believe
that's what I'm asking you, that did you agree on such plans? Because regeneration could
we agree on regeneration. We are yet to conclude on the modalities it's going to take.
All right, so last 1 minute that we have for the two of you,
Yes.
What do you think should be next? What sort of engagement do you foresee with government, or are you resorting to the courts?
The courts are always an option. We've actually recently had a series of positive judgments, including in River State, where the River State government was actually ordered to put people back in their communities, rebuild, provide emergency relief, and compensate them to the tune of 1 billion naira. We just had that judgment this week in the River State High Court. $1 billion. Plus rebuilding back the community for the people who've been wrongfully evicted. So we can go to court. That option is always available. People's rights have been massively violated. But actually, as of yesterday, we had a very positive engagement with the state government. And we are hopeful that there's a clear understanding.
Who in Lagos State government? LAFSCA?
No, a higher authority who has promised to appeal to the governor. And we want to put our belief that this could lead fruit, that they recognize the fact that a wrong has happened that needs to be put right. And we're really putting our hope on that process. And the residents are ready to work with the state government, provided that the situation will be put right. So I think that's the latest development, and we're very hopeful on that process. But we need to highlight the humanitarian disaster that is currently in place.
What can be done in that regard too?
I think that what is needed is a temporary shelter for the people who are staying under the bridge. We're talking about pregnant women, children, babies, elderly who have nowhere to go. And they're being harassed by, the police, touts are around. It's a terrible situation. So they need to have a temporary shelter that's built for them in that location while the long-term solution is put in place.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan, and thank you, Honorable Joe.